Welcome in. It's Thursday, September 9th with the EBDB Weekly Update. I'm your host, Tim Sorrells, and joining me today is my co-host, Brett Colleton. What's going on, Brett?
Happy to be here. Just watched a pretty good ending to the Chiefs-Ravens. Finally found a way to be fun near the end. How you doing, Tim?
Doing good. Didn't get to watch as much as I wanted to, with the toddler running around the house. So the game was on mute from 6 p.m. onwards, and bath time and bedtime disrupted most of the end of it, but caught the fourth quarter. So that was the best part.
Hey, yeah. The last two or three drives were all that mattered in that game. And, Lamar versus Mahomes always ends up fun.
It does. And I'm not sure if the rain was going to cause problems. You hear thunderstorms and delay of game. Like, well, this is just going to be a disaster. But I'm very happy with the way it turned out.
That's one of the things that's crazy is, you never really see that stuff and how much it affects people on the field during the broadcast. I will tell you right now, I had no idea that it was raining.
I didn't know until the alert.
I didn't even see it at all. That's crazy.
Yeah, crazy. So you're back in the league. It's been a few years off. What made you want to come back?
I hope to do better. I don't know, man. I've been really enjoying fantasy football. I've been ever since I moved back to San Luis Obispo. And now with Ben running around, especially Ben was born, near the end of football season last year. So, been watching a ton of games, just having it on in the background, and it's an easy, relatively lazy thing to do, and I felt like I needed to redeem myself a little bit. My only two finishes in this league were last place and second to last place. So hoping I can do a little bit better this time around.
Do you remember I invited
Thanks for having me back, I guess.
Oh, of course. Do you remember I invited you to rejoin 2 years ago and you turned me down?
Correct.
I have a quote from you.
I was still bitter for sure at that point. What is this quote?
Yeah, you wrote, "Yeah, I'm chilling. That league is cursed."
That league is cursed. So we'll see how it goes this year. I feel pretty good about my team. I know we're going to talk a lot about the draft tonight. As I'll probably say a couple of times throughout this, my whole strategy this year was draft the team you want. And so I'm really happy. I know, you and I play in a dynasty league, and I play in another league that just drafted in Portland. So I got my Pickles hat on. And I have Anthony Richardson in all three leagues. So I am all bought in on this Colts running back. And if that goes wrong, I expect to end up in the bottom of this league as well.
Hold on, your Pickles hat why do you have a Pickles hat then?
So the Pickles. So to make a long story long, we went to Portland and ended up staying in an Airbnb on North Mississippi Ave, which is a cool part of town, just east of the river in Portland. And as I was walking around, there were a ton of people in full-on Pickles gear, hats, shorts, jerseys, T-shirts, and I had no idea what the Portland Pickles were. Come to find out, they're similar to the Slow Blues here in Slow. They're not a affiliated minor league baseball team. They're an independent league baseball team, and we went to a couple bars that had pickle stuff, and I was 6 or 7 beers deep the day before we left, and bought myself a Pickles hat.
All right, I thought you were about to tell me your league was called Pickles because Max and I are in a different league called Harry Pickles. And it's just the most inappropriate, awful humans in this league. So I would have laughed if your league was also called Pickles. That would have been a funny twist.
I'm sorry. Aztecs of Montezuma is the other league because it started when my buddy Eric was in the dorms at San Diego State and has been going ever since.
Gotcha. Nice. Yeah. All right. Well, you ready to jump into the draft talk?
Please, let's talk about it.
So again, first year back, how do you think the draft turned out compared to everybody else's draft for leagues you're part of?
Oh, yeah. The main league that I'm in, we're lucky enough to get together. I think especially now that people have kids and stuff, it makes it a lot harder. But we moved to that thing lickety split. It felt like everybody had a good plan. Wasn't a ton of craziness. My other league, there's some big Niners fans, some big Raiders fans, some big Chargers fans, and so. I haven't had a 49ers skill position player in 6 or 7 years. I haven't had Devontae Adams or Justin Herbert or back when Antonio Gates. And so it was cool. I know there were a couple of homer picks, but they all seemed to go right about where I would expect them. So it was cool. It was fun. It allowed me to get the guys that I wanted where I wanted. And have some picks vultured and stuff. So it was a good time. I mean, you're in this league every year. Was there anything out of ordinary for you?
No, I think it was a pretty standard year for us. I think the league is just getting better. I think that's always the best way to put it. It's that
Cool.
when people play together for 10 plus years, you kind of recognize who's going to be your problem for sniping your picks and such, and you kind of have to adjust accordingly. I got a little tip of the hat from Max. We were in a draft the night before for a league. So I was able to see who he was snagging early. Didn't change anything this time around, but it was more of like, well, if I really want this person, I'm going to have to go much earlier than I would have expected because he was already leaning in even earlier than I might have. So it's just...
Before we jump into some of the categories, I know that you have, was there anybody that Max got you on twice?
Not necessarily. I think we're going to talk about it later. It was more neighbors, Malik Neighbors.
Yeah, for sure.
It was a guy that, again, I ended up with somebody who I had ranked higher, but just thinking about it, like the young rookie could be fun to have him. The hype's there, and then maybe he becomes an elite guy and a little keeper value. I mean, it's a third round pick, so it's like, yeah, you keep him in the second next year, but you never know.
But
just
if he's the number one guy,
exactly, it all played out the way it needed to, though.
Yeah, feel good about it.
What about you? Who sniped you?
Man, I was really put off by the entirety of the 10th round. Literally from Lizzie's pick, it went like pretty much like Bauer, Edwards, Jaden Daniels, Blake Corum, Jerome Ford, and I had this queue of guys that I was like, all right. And I was hoping Daniels in that round, Bowers in the next, Edwards in the one after that, Corum. I had this whole plan, and it just kind of like disintegrated in front of my eyes. But beyond that, to your point, like I don't want to draft behind Danny anymore now that he took both Ford and Palmer from me. And then I've always known, like in our dynasty league, I feel like Max always ends up with a guy that I want. I have both Dowdle and Wicks in my other league, and he got him like the round before I was going to take him in both places. So he's got a couple guys that if they start out poorly, I'm going to be coming for and try to buy low on.
The 10th round is the same thing I was thinking too, because I had noticed I wanted Christian Watson. I was excited to snag at least one Packer. And I'm like, he's late. I can add him without much risk. And then Lizzie snagged him and then proceeded to take Bowers immediately. And I'm like, well, that was my backup. Like, come on.
Gotcha. Who did you take? So Neighbors got sniped. Do you remember who you took?
Oh, I took DK Metcalf right afterwards. Okay. And he was somebody I had eyed up that I thought was going to be really good. And I just think that should be a good offense. But, he's not as exciting. He's been in the league a little longer.
You mentioned something to me about Danny's draft that I thought you wanted to talk about a little bit.
Oh, yeah. That was just it was just making fun of people for some of the moves where I talk about our league being, I feel like our league's getting better and stuff. And you notice like quarterbacks fell pretty far.
Oh my God.
So they definitely tend to fall in some of these leagues. And anytime somebody goes and takes the two onesie positions back to back in the second and third, I feel like it's just your starting lineup is going to look really good, but then you're not going to have anything else behind it. And maybe it's just not my strategy, but it's just we've all been here so long, so it just makes me laugh when someone does that. And again, value wasn't bad. It could have been best player available and just worked out that way. But if I'm ever pulling the trigger on that QB early, I'm surely not pulling the trigger on a tight end early.
Yeah, I've fallen into that trap though before, where like I don't have an elite quarterback, I don't have an elite tight end, and I'm playing the carousel for the rest of the season. So I get if you've like been there before or it's worked for you in the past, where it's like screw it, I'll just take studs so I don't have to worry about it. Like I think that goes back to my like draft your team, draft your guys. Don't let Tim make you feel bad about the team that you drafted, because maybe you played Danny in week 3 and everybody's still healthy on his team. You get smoked. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, everyone has their own strategy and whatever works for you. So play the game you want to.
Let's flip it around. Is there anybody you thought reached super far in the draft?
Oh, I laughed when Brett took Young Hoku in the 13th. Like, that's way too soon for a kicker. And he wasn't even a good kicker. And I swear Brett just likes the dude's name. And that's all it is. Like, he thinks Young Ho is a funny name. And he just wanted him. But he could have
Hey,
had Young Hoku probably in the 16th or 17th.
I paid a guy $20. He ended up giving it back, but I paid a guy $20 so I could draft Dicker the kicker in the second to last round of my draft. So funny names are great to have on your team. Easy to root for.
Definitely. It definitely makes it entertaining. What about you?
I've looked back through the draft. The biggest reach I thought for me was like because my draft board fell so hard, taking J.K. Dobbins in the same round that Gus Edwards went felt like a pretty big reach. It felt like that could have fallen. I just like literally, I would have taken somebody that I felt like should have gone. It would have been a reach regardless, and so that one felt pretty good. I don't know Sam super well. Hi Sam, I'm Brett. What's up? Kittle in the fourth makes me feel like Sam is a Niners fan.
No.
Oh, interesting.
No.
Then that for me was definitely a reach. I like being a Niners fan and being able to see Kittle in the offense. Like he's all over the place. He will just spend a whole game blocking for 3 quarters, catch 2 passes, and move on. While there are still other guys around there, I think like Evan Engram was still there. He should be a pretty big part of that offense. Brock Bowers in the 10th, stuff like that. That could have fallen to a comparably, like maybe less talented but bigger part of the offense in that spot.
She's coincidentally a Saints fan, so maybe no one to draft on the Saints
Well,
this year except Olave.
should have taken Taysom Hill.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, Kittle's a great player, though. I mean, he's good, and I always wondered if it's
fun to have, easy to root for.
I think he's always better though when someone's missing from that roster. Debo or Ayuk has to go down, and maybe Ayuk holding out all summer long bumped up his ADP, where people thought that maybe Kittle be worth more, and maybe that's why he ended up going so high.
Ricky Pearsall got himself shot. He's going to miss 4 games, so maybe that's the guy.
Talk about reaches then. Didn't Brett Johnson draft Ricky Pearsall in like the 15th or
Got to
something?
take him. Had to take him. Diamond in the rough.
It's a keeper shot.
See,
I get it.
I was going to say, talking about keeper scenario, Ricky Pearsall in the 15th, easy keeper money right there.
No, Brett's got better keepers. He doesn't need them. There's no way he keeps him next year. He's got Chase again in the 4th or something, so like guaranteed Chase is being kept there. And then he's got, Tyjae Spears for him was fine. It was a late pick, so I get it. So maybe he'll be replacing Tajay Spears next year, and maybe Pearsall does become that guy. I just don't think that. I don't think he is.
I just don't think the Steelers are going to be any good. Like they've got 2 mediocre running backs, so that was one that surprised me. But who did you think? It was interesting coming into a league that has. This is my first keeper league. I don't even remember doing keepers when I was here a couple of years ago. So like, what is the strategy? Maybe the better question is, who do you think had the best keepers late in the rounds? Who did you have as kind of your list of, man, that's such a value at where they got to keep them?
The 3 I had listed was Chris with Puka in the 16th, Katie with Laporta in 15, and Amon-Ra in round 12. I can't even give credit to Lizzie for it because, Lizzie and Brett did a swap last year of Chase for Laporta, or Chase for Amon-Ra, and then some picks to swap it out. So it was actually Brett's pick of Amon-Ra that became that one. But I think he was definitely a great person there.
How does that work? When you trade somebody, does the keeper reset?
It does.
That's cool. That's a good rule. I like that a lot.
Amon-Ra will be a keeper for the next 8 years. Just because, even by then,
you got to dump him. That's a cool system because it's like, oh, I've kept him for 2 years. I can't keep him again. Let me dump him to somebody so they can keep him for 2 years. Yeah, I feel like Amon-Ra is going to be, 4 people's number 1 keeper for a couple of years also. Laporta the same way. Puka's insane value. I'm a little curious what's going to happen with him now that Kupp is healthy and they look to be very run heavy, but man, what a diamond in the rough.
Yeah, that's another funny one. I talk about Young Hoku being Brett's pick because of a funny name. Chris 100% took Puka last year because he had a fun name in the 16th.
Yeah, I hadn't heard of him at all until week one of last year. I thought I did a pretty good draft setup last year. I need to commend Kelly Lewis on picking Anthony Richardson, super late in the draft and letting me keep him. That was pretty clutch. And the other one is, especially after tonight and seeing, what a big part of the offense he is. Rashee Rice in the 15th is going to pay dividends for somebody for a really long time as well. So Danny's going to get incredible value out of him when he stops being able to keep him. And then I imagine that he'll work his way down to the, 5th or 6th round as a keeper for a while now.
Well, looking at the draft board too, you're going through last night and just look how many rookies are drafted in this one and compare it to your other leagues.
Yeah,
and I think it's just the mindset of everybody relies on having a good keeper to be successful. And then at the trade deadline, everyone's fighting for resetting the value or getting somebody new. So it's taking those shots on guys who are rookies and probably won't do much for the first half of the year, but then maybe they explode by the end and take off. And it's just holding them as long as you can and not dropping them too soon. I think you might have heard, Danny wasn't on our draft video. He drafted Justin Jefferson super late as a rookie and then dropped him.
Whoa.
And then the next week he exploded.
That's
so we almost
nuts.
had one more super deep receiver on this list. Even
That's
so,
crazy.
someone grabbed him and got him in the 6th, which was a fantastic keeper.
It's not bad.
But I think it would have been like a 14th round or something crazy that Danny had him in. It was super
Dang.
late.
Just another thing to beat myself up about in fantasy leagues. So you got to stack it where it's like good players, youngs, and then olds.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't feel bad about dropping them because I would never, have kept them in the 14th anyway.
But in a regular league with no keepers, you're never going to draft some of those guys. More often than not, we understand the rookies don't perform the first half of the year. So it's don't draft them and then wait till they start getting more involvement and then pick them up a week or two before you think they're going to take off. And don't waste a roster spot that soon. But again, with the keeper mentality, you have to take them if you want that late value. Otherwise, the 6th is fine value for some of them, but it's just not the same as taking them in the 15th, 16th, 17th.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Who did you think about for value picks, though, going through this? Is anybody that stood out to you as a late round snag that might not be like the best keeper, but just great value for what they are?
Well, yeah, now that we've had that conversation, though, it redefines the way that I think about value. You put this on our list of questions that we were going to ask, and I was like, who's the person that fell that somebody picked way later than I had them ranked or something along those lines. So to that end, if this was just like a regular draft, we're not keeping anybody next year. Where did you get them? Jerome Ford, I think, is somebody who has a ton of value. That's a starting running back on a team that likes to run the ball. Nick Chubb's going to be hurt for most of the season. So that's, gives him a lot more opportunity. Like you saw what happened with guys like Javonte Williams, where he wasn't right all year, or Jonathan Taylor, like Zach Moss really took off in that offense last year. So having that guy in this, in this year, I think is a cool thing. And one of the big reasons that I wanted Jerome Ford. Getting a starter in the 10th is pretty crazy. And then the other one is Cortland Sutton. I don't think the Broncos are going to be any good, but they're going to be down a lot and they're going to have to throw the ball. So somebody's going to catch a pass eventually in that offense. And I think he's the only Broncos receiver that's getting drafted, period. And Bo Nix is a deep shot and dump down machine. So it's if Cortland's the only guy who can catch balls, either he's going to be really high in targets and receptions or really high in yards and touchdowns. And it's got to be one of the two. But yeah, those are definitely the two that fell for me. And I was like, this is somebody that I would have taken 2 rounds early if I was thinking about this a little bit differently. So I'm disappointed they didn't even fall further to where I could have grabbed them. How about you? Value picks.
Before I jump into there, you mentioned the Broncos being bad, and Lizzie is a Broncos fan. So I've been sending her Instagram reels of just how shitty the Broncos are. Whenever I see something about the Broncos being bad, I go straight to Lizzie. And I said, a week ago, I sent her one, is that the Broncos haven't beat the Oakland Raiders in 1,700 days. That's 5 seasons.
Whoa.
Yeah, and the Raiders suck.
The Raiders are bad. The Raiders are so bad.
Yeah. So if that's what we're talking about for the Broncos, they're going to be very bad.
My favorite other thing is when a team that's really bad is like, what'll stop the fans from hating us? Let's redo our entire jersey set. Like this'll teach them. This'll get us there. And no, their new jerseys are awful, and they're going to be awful, and it's going to be hilarious.
Well, I'll boost Lizzie back up in a second when we talk about keeper potential for the future, but I think Katie taking Deontay Johnson in the 8th, I think that's fantastic in a PPR league. I mean, if he comes in as her 4th receiver, I mean, she hasn't benched now. Maybe after she watches this, she'll put him in the starting lineup. So I think he's probably better than the running back she's playing in that last flex spot. But
Bryce Young and to that end, he's garbage, but Deontay Johnson's really good at running short routes, and Adam Thielen took off as a number 1 receiver, and Deontay Johnson is for sure better than Adam Thielen right now. So, yeah, that's a great pick.
I saw a stat for Deontay Johnson where in terms of they always measure yards of separation on their targets. Deontay Johnson had by far the highest yards of separation per route run. So it's just the dude gets open, and Bryce Young apparently is a chicken in the pocket. So just hit the guys wide open every time.
Yeah, easy enough.
So I think it's a great pick there. I teased it, so I'll just jump into it. Talk about the keeper potential for people. I think Lizzie, we talked about what she did in round 9 and 10 with Christian Watson and Bowers. I thought was great value for them, with also keeper potential associated with it. Thinking that Brock Bowers, who's supposed to be some generational talent here, and now he's taken in the 10th, he'll probably have value for her this year as a tight end at some point down the line. But then also next year, taking him in the 9th, it sounds great as long as things go well.
Yeah, for sure.
Who'd you have as best keeper potential?
Keeper potential, Jordan Love in the 16th blows my mind. I think there's potential for that offense to be the best in the league, and he's the guy slinging it. So he's gonna, he's got a great group of pass catchers. Josh Jacobs, if he has anything left in the tank. I'm pretty sure y'all have a rookie running back who looks like he's got some juice as well. Everybody's super duper young. So, I mean, keeping a quarterback on a great offense to be around for a while is awesome. Strictly on keeper potential, Trey Benson, if the Cardinals offense turns itself around a little bit, maybe the 49ers start to fall off, maybe the Rams start to fall off because of age and contracts and stuff. That could look to be really good as he moves James Conner out of the way and becomes the 1 in Arizona. And then I'll just go back to best keepers, man. The fact that people have Laporta, Rice, Puka so late, that's the best keeper potential right there. Those are sure things in the first and second rounds that you just don't have to worry about them anymore. It's insane.
Yeah, I get that. And I was pretty partial to snagging Odunze and Brooks in the 7th and 8th, but that's just me tooting my own horn here.
Well, I'm a big Brooks guy because I love everybody who comes out of UT, but the injury's scary. There's a lot of mouths to feed. I'm not sure if you're going to want to keep Odunze in the 6th if he's the 3rd in target still in Chicago. But if he separates himself from those other 2 guys and becomes the number 1, which it seems like him and Caleb have been attached at the hip, so there's every opportunity that's the case. He'd be an absolute steal in the 6th.
We'll see. He's one of those guys that I don't need to start. He's my 5th or 6th receiver that I have. So that's
awesome.
I mean, just purely a dart throw, see what happens, wait for him to blow up.
Yeah.
And in theory, I don't need either of them to be keepers, with
and Brooks starts on the IR, right?
Yep.
So you have a keeper potential guy that you don't need to start. You don't even need to. You can totally see how your team shakes out for 4 weeks before you have to slot him in. So you can be fully set on your roster and then just drop another dart throw that has been idle is a pretty crazy scenario.
Yeah. I mean, as long as things go well, I shouldn't need him. The Achane and Taylor combo should be a perfect 1-2 punch from the running back position. But
it'd be great.
It's inevitable. Injuries will happen, and they will come at the worst time, especially when Achane's this little midget runner on the field who weighs 15 pounds. He'll probably be the one who goes down.
Well, speaking of that, as we get to preview the games in week 1, you have you versus me, which is the Mostert Achane head-to-head battle, I think we are both starting both of those guys to see who comes out on top in the battle of the Dolphins running backs. I think that would be a lot of fun.
Definitely. Well, before we get into that, Brett, we got sponsors here, and they got to have their words heard.
Let's hear it. Let's throw to a commercial.
Are you a seasoned fantasy football manager, but consistently underperforms at your league's draft? It's time to break the cycle of draft day disappointment. Meet Dr. Fantasy, a dedicated fantasy football psychologist specializing in helping managers overcome recurring draft disasters. Through personalized counseling sessions, Dr. Fantasy will help you identify underlying psychological factors, understand why you consistently make poor draft decisions, develop new strategies, learn effective drafting techniques tailored to your personality and playing style, manage stress and anxiety, cope with the emotional toll of repeated draft failures, build resilience, develop the mental toughness needed to succeed in fantasy football. Don't let another year of draft day dread hold you back. Let Dr. Fantasy help you turn your fantasy football failures into fantasy football triumphs. Schedule your consultation today.
Thank you to our sponsor, Dr. Fantasy. Chris, maybe you should go sign up for those services. You don't have to call me every week asking who you should be starting or texting me 5 minutes before the draft asking if Tyreek Hill is the best pick at the 102. But just something for you to consider. With that, on to the Week 1 preview. So, Brett, you got into it. We have the Achane and Mostert head-to-head this week, and it's looking like projections relatively close. I'm going to be 128, you 132. So at least the algorithm thinks you're going to win here. What do you think about it?
Yeah, but I think it really boils down to that. And I think these teams are relatively closely matched. I would say your running backs are a little bit higher rated than mine are. My wide receivers are a little bit higher rated than yours are. But at the end of the day, whoever wins that backfield in Miami is probably going to run away with this one.
Yeah, you're probably true. And I was looking at Kamara with 15 projected points, which seems absurd. But then I remembered that their offense is really bad, and they're just going to check it down to him 17 times probably. So 15 might not be enough points for him. He'll probably put up more than that.
That's what I'm hoping for sure.
And you have to hope for Richardson making it through more than 2 quarters compared to last year.
Well, the insurance of Caleb Williams just looking like God's gift to the quarterback position is the only insurance I have on that. So yes, I'm hoping that Anthony Richardson looks good for more than a quarter every game over the next 17 games.
My weak point 100% is Hunter Henry at the tight end spot. And I blame that on my idiot league mates who took multiple tight ends and ruined my plans. Because who the hell takes the tight ends so late? I'm like, I can get one of them. I know I got 12 on my list that I'm going to be happy with. And then all of a sudden, they're all gone. I'm like, well, this is bullshit. But that's how it goes.
Do you remember who was the last one taken that you would have been happy with?
Who's the one for Cleveland? What's his name?
Goku.
Yes. Katie sniped him. And I'm like, you have Laporta, Katie. Come on. You don't need more. You're never going to use him. He's a sit on your bench. You're going to drop him. Let me have him. So
now you can go get Isaiah Likely.
We'll see. I think Isaiah Likely, though, he's very good. Blew up tonight. Absolutely. I'm thinking that Andrews should take more of that share back as he gets healthier. You wonder if he just wasn't 100%. We'll see. Definitely be a close one for us, though. Looking at the next one, it's Chris versus Max is the next matchup I have here. And the projections have swung a bit away from Chris after tonight's game, but going into it, he was a 135 to 126 favorite, looking like he was going to run away with this one.
Yeah, it's really a question of wide receivers versus running backs. I mean, Max with Jahmyr Gibbs and Kyren Williams versus Chris with Josh Jacobs and Aaron Jones. I mean, that's a big point in Max's favor. But then the flip side, Olave, Neighbors, McLaurin versus Higgins, Nakua, and Tyreek Hill. I mean, that's night and day as well. I think the interesting thing is, Mahomes only put up 16 points. That does shift the projections, and Max is still not favored in that point. But I mean, you got to get a win when Mahomes puts up under 20 points.
I agree with that. And Jacobs, I think, is a little bit underrated this week. Packers lost another running back, so it literally is the room is him, and he's just going to get fed the ball. And then I saw a quote today from the coach was, "We know we can be a workhorse. We just didn't want to, but we can do it, and we'll have to do it this weekend." So we'll see. With Emmanuel Wilson being hurt, it's just Jacobs until Marshall Lloyd gets healthy.
That'd be crazy. That's a big workload.
But that'll be a close matchup. Like that'll probably be the closest match we see, is my guess. Next one we have is Alex versus Sam, with projections looking at 134 to 129 favoring Alex. What do you think about them?
Well, let me start by saying I'm impressed with the kickers in both of these games. Butker put up 12. Justin Tucker had 7 and missed one, so that was probably that is interesting in the Thursday night matchup. But I like both of these teams a lot. I think they're super evenly matched. I think you kind of look down down both of these teams, and it's just one for one. Both, really good teams, really solid across the board. Both of these teams have quarterbacks that I'm not sure I fully trust. So I expect this one to be really close. I'm not sure where those 4 extra points are coming from. Maybe it's the underperforming Baltimore defense versus a Seattle team against a super weak Denver defense. But I think this will be a fun one to watch also.
Yeah, definitely. And it's funny seeing Kyle Pitts close to 12 points projected.
That's
the
nuts.
hype's there, but you never know. He's had so many years of just mediocrity, and also hilarious that Alex drafted them. I feel like I'm in so many leagues with Alex, and he always takes Kyle Pitts, and he's always mad at Kyle Pitts by week 2 when Kyle Pitts just sucks.
It's like Kyle Pitts is the fantasy player's ex-girlfriend. If you've had him, you know how good it could be, and you just keep coming back. It's taken every fiber of my being to not trade for him, not draft him in every league for the past 3 years.
The talent's there. He should be good. But again, maybe better offense.
I think 3 years ago I took him in the 3rd, and he was awful. And, that first 1,000-yard season, it's like so athletic, such good hands. Like this guy should be athletic and young Travis Kelce, and it's just never fallen through. But maybe Kirk Cousins is his guy. Maybe they can get it together.
3rd round pick, that's way too soon. Talk about reaches. That was a lot, but also I get it. 3 years ago, there weren't many good tight ends out there except Waller, Andrews, and Kelce. That was it. If you didn't get one of the 3 of them, you were kind of just shit out of luck. So maybe that was the dice roll. Going for the big lotto ticket, so to speak.
Absolutely.
This actually, I said that we might be a close one. Katie versus Danny is actually projected to be even closer. That was 134.5 to 135.7 on the projections. Can be very close from how it looks right now.
Yeah, I mean, you want to see better than 6.5 points out of Travis Kelce if you're taking him where you have to take him. But, I think this will be a super fun one because I expect McCaffrey and Breece Hall to put up crazy amounts of points. CJ Stroud versus Josh Allen is an awesome matchup as well. This is a lot. I mean, both these teams have a lot of guys I'm excited about. Tony Pollard, Michael Pittman, Sam Laporta, Devontae Smith. So I think this might be the one where the big number changes it. Somebody like Devontae Smith has like 35 points, or Josh Allen puts up 45. McCaffrey has a 50 or something, and just that's how this game goes.
It very well could. There's lots of players on both teams that could just explode. But you're right. Kelce was 6. That's a major disappointment. We talked about Danny going 2nd and 3rd on QB and tight end and getting 6 points out of your 2nd round pick. That's a problem. You're not happy with that at all.
No. And I've been looking at a lot of these benches, and I think that everybody's picking the right squad. And specifically in that one, like you said, Danny's bench, man, there's not a lot of support coming from there. If the starters can't do it, then the waiver wire is where you need to be.
I mean, he's doing okay on the bench with like Ramondre. I think he's a fine fill-in, nothing spectacular. But again, if you needed the guy, he'll be solid. And then Jameson Williams, the low ticket. Everyone says this is the year. We'll see.
I can't believe you think Ramondre Stevenson is going to be any good. He's the only thing that they have on that team. So they're going to put 8 in the box every single down. He's going to score 4 fantasy points a game.
I get it, but it's Jacoby Brissett. He'll check it down 4 or 5 times to him. He'll get 4 or 5 points just off of
9 points a game.
Yeah, and that's all it is. It's just a body to put in. Sometimes it's rough in the running back room, so you got to just start somebody.
Fair.
You talked about starting the right people, though. I think we'll see if Katie listens to our feedback here. I think Pollard's a good player. I don't see upside out of him, and I think that if we're talking about a game where it's going to be a shootout and potentially people blowing up, I feel like swapping Deontay Johnson to the last flex spot's the answer. I just feel like he's got more upside than Pollard does.
Totally. In a PPR league, I'm always a fan of wide receivers over, unless they're strictly like this person has high receiving upside. I like wide receivers in my flex spots more than I like running backs. It's just me. Pollard could be a beast this season.
I'm with you. We'll see. But they're saying 50-50 split with Tajay and Pollard. So who knows? Hot hand? Just depends on who gets it.
Yeah.
Our last one here, we have this flagged as the matchup of the week, mostly because it's defending champion Lizzie coming in and a little bit of a, not sibling rivalry, family rivalry with the brother-in-law, sister-in-law combo here. Right now it's looking like Lizzie's favored 132 to 127 and change to Brett. How you feeling about them?
I mean, Lizzie's got a lot of her team already. Well, not a lot of her team. She's got 3 people that have already played. 25 out of Lamar is a good number. 20 out of Xavier Worthy is incredible. That's a 3-reception game, 1 carry, 2 touchdowns. So on 3 touches, he put it in the end zone twice. Guy is so fast, and that could be a fun keeper. That could be a fun player to have on your team for a long time. But I think that's going to be a big boom or bust. Similarly, that Mark Andrews number is real low, so a little volatile, but like, I don't know. My favorite thing is when, the league starts and the champ goes down and starts 0-1. So everybody's kind of on equal footing. Nobody feels too confident going into the rest of the season. And so I'm hoping Brett can pull this out. He's got some exciting stuff. 21 out of Zay Flowers and Derrick Henry isn't spectacular, but I think Bijan can put up a big number. I think Jake Ferguson can put up a big number. Obviously, Jamar Chase can put up a big number. So, I'm hoping, even though I'm new to the league, I'm really hoping that Lizzie ends up losing this one.
I think we're all rooting against Lizzie. It's just how it is. When you're the champ, everybody wants to see you. Everyone wants to see you fall. That's just how it goes.
Yeah, man. Starting 0-1, it's like okay, no one can feel good anymore. It's when the champ starts out like 5-0, and they're just like, I'm better than all of you at this, where it starts to really suck.
Well, all I'll have to remind her is that, I told her which defense to select her in the draft, so I'll just claim credit for all her victories and undermine her the whole way. You didn't do this.
Nice.
You picking the New Orleans Saints for the Week 1 matchup and then proceeding to immediately drop them. That's why you're winning this year. That's what it is.
It's hilarious.
Andrews, though, you're right. 3 points out of him is rough. And I had my note sheet from last night, and I have my tight ends in tiers, like probably most people rank their people. But Kelsey and Andrews are both that tier 1 tight end, where it's like you expect dominance out of them, and having both of them come up slow.
Like 12 points minimum, 25 points expectation is a big part of the offense.
Right. And we kind of talked about it just like we were chatting about the game and what was happening earlier. But is Andrews hurt still? I mean, he was hurt all preseason. He didn't play. Is he actually healthy? Or is he just so rusty after a year off that he's hurt again? He didn't play at all last year. Is likely just the better player, and now he's going to be the starter. Is it Goddard and Ertz all over again?
Yeah. I would like to see the snap percentage breakdown of this game, because I think it will be overwhelming how much likely played. And I told you this before we started, but I think the main difference was they trust likely out there to block more. And so it makes their offense more dynamic when he's on the field, especially if Andrews is hurt and they don't want him taking those extra reps of contact So it's like if they put him out there, everybody knows they're going to throw the ball. With Likely, there's both options, and so yeah, I mean Isaiah Likely has been great every time he's seen the field and put together another great one today, and was 2 inches from putting up maybe the performance of the week.
That was so close, and I was really
So
excited to
close.
see them go for 2 and actually go for the win there.
Same.
We didn't get it.
That's funny that you say that, because I almost jumped on here to be like, oh, Tim, we should do this during overtime. And then I saw John Harbaugh running out there with the 2, and I was like, yes, huge balls, John Harbaugh. Let's fucking do this.
You have to do it. It's the away game. You're in Kansas City. You got to steal that one.
Dude, and they the option game had been working really well. There, you put Lamar out there with only 2 yards to get, Derrick Henry in the backfield, Zay Flowers, Isaiah Likely, the options are literally endless. And so going for 2 to win a game, I trust that offense to do it.
Yeah. Well, Andrews isn't going to hurt her, though. The combo of Lamar Jackson and Worthy putting up 45, that's more than makes up for that difference. Even though Lamar didn't look like he was going to do so great. He waited till the fourth quarter to put up all his points, it seemed. Just wait till the fourth and then run for 80 more yards and throw a touch, do all that kind of work then. Kind of lucked out a bit.
Yeah. And I mean, if he connects that pass to Likely, that puts him at like a 30-point week, which is game winning. It's week winning for sure.
Absolutely. Well, Brett's got a hold of Degatov, that's for sure. But again, like you said, I think the league's rooting for him. He's a pain in the ass. But he's our pain in the ass this week.
Do our name proud.
Well, I think that's long enough for this episode. We'll be back next week reacting to the week of matchups and definitely spouting some more nonsense. Good luck this weekend, everybody, and we'll see you back soon.